not above me. I bet you wish you was me. I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new 2024 with the throwback intro, Only Friends episode. We are so happy to be back and shaking off a little bit of the dust. Sorry for the delay in the countdown.
Just keeping everybody on their toes.
Yeah,
Berk.
you know how it is. A little technical. Yeah. We're a skeleton crew here.
Skeleton. This is it, man. This is the show.
Well, this is going to be the new show because Conrad actually is a skeleton. Mm-hmm. I've buried him.
Oh no.
Oh,
so it's going to happen?
Oh, it's going to happen. Is it going to happen?
What's going to happen is just when and where and
how
how.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. Okay.
For everyone that doesn't know, which they probably do know, the Steelers have won their 9th game of the season, which means Berkey wins the slap bet.
Also, a little bonus to this that I completely forgot about. Shout out to Jeff Platt. What a hero. I bet him $1,000 on the show.
Oh, you did?
On the 8.5 over under.
Oh my God.
Higher, lower. Apologies.
Higher, lower. Did I get in on that bet?
You did not, but I have a nice 1,000 coming to me, so we're gonna have Jeff Platt back on the show very soon. Very soon. The Steelers won their 9th game, which means that I do in fact get to slap Connie. But I was thinking about this, and there was a point where it wasn't looking good.
No.
I was on my knees.
About 2 weeks ago.
We went into Christmas break. I was begging. I said, guys, please, I won't hit him that hard. Just let it happen. Now we have a shot at the playoffs. So in keeping with the not being results oriented here and just saying like, oh, he's dead. I knew this was going to happen. No. I remember Berkey of 2 weeks ago staring down the barrel of the gun, knowing we had to go into Seattle and steal one with Mason Rudolph leading Santa's sleigh.
Comeback player of the year, Mason Rudolph.
Him and Flacco, they're going to be battling it out.
I know.
I remember that. So what I may do, and this isn't even to let Conrad off the hook, it's actually to let me off the hook. I may bequeath my slap.
Hey, what?
Bequeath.
Bequeath?
Yeah, gift.
What the hell does that?
I may gift my slap.
Okay.
Someone else?
To some lucky viewer at the Borgata. I slept on it, and I think this is the play. Conrad's gone until the end of the month. There's only 2 options here, okay? Conrad's gone until the end of the month. I think he gets back the 28th. So he's gone for a full month, which allows him to really prep the face, grow the beard out, get it nice and calloused, maybe get some light slaps in the meantime. I don't want that, all right? So the only 2 options that I think we have are that I bequeath the slap to somebody in Atlantic City, and we have the whole thing filmed. I believe Poker Org is out there. Shout out to Sarah Herring. If you want to hit me up, maybe we can organize this, make sure we get video footage of all this.
Multiple angles, please.
Right, as many angles as possible, actually. Or alternatively, my birthday's on the 29th, in which case...
What a birthday gift.
Yeah, maybe I just, give myself a little gift this year and knock him the fuck out.
January 29th is your birthday? Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
The last option is I could let him put it on a tab. Let him start tabbing slaps.
I don't know. No, because that's never going to get paid off, I don't think.
Well, one thing's for sure. The slap will be paid.
Yeah.
The slap will be paid, and you all will be a witness to it. I apologize to everybody who came here today hoping to see.
They thought the slap was going to be today? I mean, we got to build it up a little bit more than that. It's not just going to come in, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Well, the man ran.
He did. He literally just
hopped a jet plane.
Yeah, he got the hell out of Dodge.
We were in Tahoe, myself, Conrad, Espen, Henry, and Melissa.
How was it? Was it nice? Was it fun? Did you snowboard?
It didn't snow.
Were there any snow?
It didn't snow. There was no snow.
In a week, there'll be 3 feet.
I know. I'm quite frustrated. But it was a good trip. I had a good time. We were watching the Steeler game, and it was very clear, heading into the third quarter that we had this thing on lockdown. And Conrad was like sad watching on the floor. It was so nice to watch a game with him where he didn't have any shit to talk.
Yeah.
It was just what it was 3 hours of watching him accept his fate.
Honestly, that would have been worth going on the trip just to watch the game with him.
100%. So I'm texting Melissa, and I go, "Hey, when this game ends, I'm gonna slap Conrad in the face. I need you to film it and do it in landscape mode.
Oh man.
And she's like, okay. As the fourth quarter's winding down, I look over and she's like napping in the chair. I'm like, fuck, god damn it. All right, we'll
You were
find
just
another
gonna give
way.
him just walk up and just crack him right in the
Honestly,
face?
not
Even any warning?
Actually, what was the premise on How I Met Your Mother? That you could slap someone whenever you wanted to, like...
Very quick story of how the slap bet was born. It came from How I Met Your Mother, which Guapo just pointed out, and the rule was that they were betting on whether or not Robin had done porn, and they bet one slap. So Barney found this tape from her teenage years, and she was horrified of it, and he just accepted that was her having done porn, so he slapped Marshall. Now, Lily was the slap bet commissioner. They find out later that Robin was just mortified that she was a teen pop star, and this was her first music video. So as the slap commissioner, since he slapped out of turn, he had to be punished. So he was given the option of 3 slaps right now, or sorry, 5 slaps right now, or 10 slaps right now, or 5 slaps doled out over
And they didn't know it was coming.
an infinite amount of time where he didn't know it was coming. He took five slaps.
Yeah.
So now for the next 9 seasons, these random slaps would just occur. It was genius. And in my head, that's what I had built up for at the end of the Steeler game, was that Conrad was going to like turn around, admit defeat. And I was just going to haul off and knock him out. And have Melissa film the whole thing, and then just kind of pick him up, cradle his head in my chest, be like, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
Could do double or nothing where they make the playoffs.
Relax. I'm not trying to lose a slap here. We got a great show for you guys today. I know that we have been gone for far too long. What a bad week to take off. Man,
know.
we disappeared for
Controversy.
1 week.
Yeah.
1 week. Can you guys just chill on the super using and the fucking stealing from one another for a week?
God damn.
Like, man, we went like 3 months. We couldn't get anything going, every day. 3,000 views talking about Steelers football. Now here we are in the midst of the holidays. I just want to take a nap. And here we go. We got a guy who is hacking GG. We got MonkerGuy who is playing intermediary of potential theft.
Is it still alleged at this point?
Well, I mean, we don't know. I guess, are you asking, is the third party alleged?
No, I thought it was he accepted money or somebody sent money on accident.
Correct. It wasn't his address that the money got sent to. Everything got cleared up eventually.
Okay.
I don't want to set up MonkerGuy for failure here. This did all get kind of resolved.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into the details of that moving forward. I want to cover a couple of the smaller stories before we dig into the big stuff. The Circa Survivor is down to the final 4, and we lost the greatest sports bettor of all time.
Oh,
And that is heartbreaking,
what
guys.
a shame.
That is heartbreaking.
Brutal.
The Broncos ruined it for my man Sean Perry. He's out, along with, kind of crazy, there were 10 teams left. 6 of them were on the Broncos against
New England,
yeah, which seemed pretty sharp.
Mhm.
Trap game, though.
Always.
Fucking trap game.
Know them all too well.
Also, the last game that we'll see Russell Wilson cooking for Denver, apparently.
Yeah, he gone.
He's now riding the pine because he won't take a cut in the contract, which, can't
Yeah,
fucking
and
blame
if
the
there's
guy.
a weird thing, where if he gets hurt, then they're on the hook for a bunch more money. So they can't, just play him.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a bunch more money. I thought he just had guaranteed money and they were trying to get out of it.
It's it's weird. It's if he gets hurt, then he's guaranteed more.
I see.
Something like that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Either way, they're going to be moving on from him. And New England, for the first time ever, I was happy to see them win because Perry got ousted from the Circa Survivor, which led to, I mean, I know this is late news because it happened literally 9 days ago, but man, Twitter was abuzz at his failures.
Oh yeah.
There were so many good one-liners. I thought the best though was Haralabob.
Yeah, Haralabob is great.
He came in hard. Fuck, I think I lost it.
I mean,
It's
what
funny.
the internet loves more than anything is to see a cocky asshole lose.
Yeah,
I don't know if
honestly,
he's an asshole.
honestly, I think
that's
they're
a little
just
harsh, but
I think they're just happy to see anybody lose. To be quite
they
frank,
are, but especially when they talk a lot of shit.
yeah. Yeah. So Heralibus tweeted something out to the effect of one of my favorite Sean Perry stories is that I tweeted some time ago that he's one of the sharpest like sports bettors of our time or something like that. Clearly
he was trolling.
Yeah, clearly trolling. Oh, okay, here it is. One of the most talented gamblers I've ever met. He said, I then had 3 poker friends text me saying he's going around showing everybody my tweet.
Yeah, of course he is.
Not sure what his skill is, but it's definitely not reading people. But if you scroll down, the reply to this is actually really great. He said, I'll say this about him. If he had a better reputation, he'd probably make a pretty good beard. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Like, maybe he's just the guy who gets the action down.
Maybe.
Like, what a great role to play. It's kind of like, I think we're seeing a lot more of this in the sports gambling industry now that it's becoming like nationwide, and I guess like the negative connotation of it is kind of wearing off. You're seeing a lot more content creators in this space, and it is one of those weird industries where in order to get money down, you kind of got to be playing the dope role.
Yeah.
And who better than Sean Perry, really? You know, I mean, like, what a talent. This might be. Bob's tweet might actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best bettors of all time.
He's the part of a loser to perfection.
Someone's got to do it, man. Someone's got to be Worm in this little couple that we got going on here. Big shout out to Dean Eggs, who put out his year-end vlog a couple days ago. Lost $2 million last year. RIP. Lucky for him, I found it. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Nick.
Is trickle down economics a thing in poker?
In poker, it absolutely is, for sure. There's nothing there. Listen, there is nothing better for the ecosystem than when a high stakes degenerate. This isn't apply. This isn't aside from DNEGs.
Yeah.
But in general, there's nothing better than when like a high stakes degenerate cash game player ships a major tournament for big money, like 7 figures. Like, you absolutely want Blesnik winning, like, you know, fucking the WPT championship or something, because everybody gets staked. We don't know what else to do with the money. We can't play any bigger. You know, it's like suddenly the 510 streets are just lined with new soldiers out there getting ready to fire it up. If you didn't see the DNEGs vlog, I actually think it's like worth a watch. We one of the trolls we had in our chat was Espen was being critical of the Airbnb TVs. He goes, "We need a TV big enough to watch DNEGs vlogs on." Okay. So like we're going through the Airbnbs and he's like, no, this TV is not big enough to watch DNEGs vlog on. So we watched the year-end wrap up, and I actually thought it was like a pretty good reflection of a losing year. I think DNEGs does a really great job of leaning into the things that I guess are within our control, right? Because like whether you have winning or losing years, as you get better and I guess let's call it more professional, there should be a little bit less control around the final number of what you won and lost, and a lot more of just reflecting on maybe spots missed, maybe mistakes made, whatever. For DNEGs, though, he's kind of in a cushy spot. So I think that he doesn't have to play, right? And the motives behind playing aren't necessarily always pure. And I thought that was a lot of what this vlog recognized, is that, you know, sometimes he forces it. Sometimes he's putting in volume that he doesn't actually want to put in. You know, he spoke about like some, what he considers to be smaller buy-ins, like 10Ks and stuff like that, where he's just jamming dark, trying to build a stack, which is obviously massively negative EV. And that shows up in the final, in the final number.
And he's switching that this year, right? So he said this year he wants to put in less volume, quality
over quantity.
Right.
And you know, sure enough, he just wins his first event.
Yeah.
First event played right out of the gate.
So now he doesn't have to play for like 6 months.
Yeah, January 2nd. Ships the 10K at PokerGo for a little over 200,000.
Yep. See you at the WSOP.
And he said he's living up to his maxim. He's taking today off.
Right.
So respect to DNEGs for setting the example. Interesting final table. Obviously, him and Bonomo are having a little bit of social discord back and forth about things that we're not qualified to talk about. And honestly, like I've stayed very far out of it. I don't have any interest. I don't think my opinion matters one way or the other. And I will say this about Bonomo, like I respect how much passion he puts into these things, which makes me trust that he's at least trying to do his due diligence. Whether or not he actually gets to the point of being objective or not, pretty unlikely. So some bias is obviously going to shine through. And we're talking about such a hot button issue as a holy war, so to speak. You're going to piss people off.
Yeah. And
he's done a really good job of pissing people off. So, there's been a lot of back and forth between the community at large and Bonomo, especially when he takes a very unpopular position,
right?
Which should have led to, I guess, some awkwardness at the final table. But I only watched a portion of it. It seemed like they were cordial, as men tend to be when they don't have the Twitter fingers available. We've seen a lot of the Twitter fingers make their way into the PokerGo studio and not much follow through, which honestly, for the best.
Shout out to High Stakes Poker.
Yeah, for the best. Like, what do you want to see happen? It's like
a lot of people tuned in to see basically you and Nick get into a fist fight, but that never happened.
They got their money's worth.
Yeah, they did.
He put on a fucking show. Honestly, God bless Nick Airball.
You just stayed silent the whole time.
I had no intentions of talking. God bless Nick Airball, and God bless everyone. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll talk about my graph tomorrow. There's a little shout out to Airball in there. So yeah, big congratulations to Daniel. This hand, I guess, is pretty wild. I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
yeah,
but it looks like they're they're like 30 blinds effective here, 10 SPR. Ace King probably shouldn't get the money in unless it makes a queen. But
it does make a queen.
Well, on the river. But yeah, the way this hand plays out, it looks like Daniel opens, big blind calls. He then check raises the flop.
He doesn't check raise.
No. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, and Landon's not here to do it for us.
Mr. S check raises.
Mr. S check raises. D-Negs calls, obviously, peels. Turn, I imagine it face a pretty polar size at like 2.5 SPR. So probably going to see something like B66 or B75-ish, something like that, as the flush draw comes through. So, yeah, we're going to see 1.3 million, so just under half pot.
No, he bet almost full pot.
Oh, sorry, that's
after the bet.
Right.
Yeah,
okay, so there's 1.5 in there. Okay,
yes,
so yeah,
correct.
bet like 80%, a little bit over 2E, or two equal sizes. Turn and river.
Does D-Negs just YOLO?
He does YOLO, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. I mean, I guess there's an aspect that he could have the best hand right now.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to get bluffed off it on the river. But like, that's just okay, man. It's okay to call and then have a fold versus a river jam. It's okay to let some bluffs get through. There aren't a lot of them, Not a lot of them in this instance. Like 8-9 of clubs is it. And that probably 3-bets pre some of the time.
Just call, get it in on the river, then you look like a genius.
yeah, exactly.
That's a good way to start the year.
Hey, just call, then Jack Deuce rips into you on the river.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes
sick life.
He had equity, and then there you go.
Oh, D-Negs limp pre. Not that matters, but yeah. Okay. Well, hey, you're doing it, man. You're doing it.
His reaction was great. He's just like, "Oh, I guess I won. Nice, cool."
I did see him say, like, in an interview somewhere, "I don't know what the fuck I was doing on the turn."
He did. No, he said that. He said
that was his tweet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He literally said that. Right after he won, as he's talking to the guy he beat, he said, he's just like, yeah, I have no idea what I was doing on the turn.
Yeah. Look, and
he knew it in the moment.
And here's the thing, like, that's fine. That's totally fine. Like, we're quote unquote paid to be pundits here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're armchair quarterbacking. People are just going to make mistakes, and when it happens on stream, like, we're going to point it out, I guess.
At the most pivotal moment of a tournament.
Right, yeah. But it's like, whatever. Like, first of all, none of us are that fucking good. No. Top to bottom. I don't care who you hold in the highest regard, with the exception of Ike. That man is a goddamn machine. But, Ike and maybe Kuhn aside, like, everybody else, you're all flawed. And we're all in that bucket with you. So, like, let's just embrace the fact that we're still humans playing a game that is riddled with mistakes. And we haven't gotten to the point yet where it's just my sim versus your sim, and we see whose is built more accurately.
I have a question about this quality over quantity thing. If you take a look at 2019 to 22,
Yep.
2023 nearly wiped out 3 years of work, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't the right approach to be put in more quantity versus quality? Because now you're kind of setting yourself up to maybe have a disastrous 2024 if you just don't bink.
I think his point is that he tried that last year and got washed. And more importantly, if you look at years past, I believe it was the 2019 year, might have been 2020, I can't recall, but he lost $1 million to Polk that year and still turned around a winner. I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
So it's like, did he actually not play during COVID at all? He played online, right?
Guess
I
not.
don't know. He just doesn't have a 2020 in there.
That's pretty wild. But yeah, anyway.
But you understand my question, right?
I do.
Like, if he has an edge, like, play more.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that there's a caveat to, and I understand this as a live guy, because live is very slow. It's meticulous. The money being made isn't necessarily as technical as you might find when you're putting in mass volume. So, like, I believe this about myself, and I'm sure that he believes this to some degree about his own game. The edge is within making high quality decisions at moments that matter most.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know that D-Negs believes he's winning in high rollers over a sample of 10,000 games, but he believes that he's winning in a 1-of-1 when he enters and sits within a field. You know, do you understand what I'm saying in that regard? Right. So like when he shows up for the 300K super high roller bowl, that's a 1-of-1 event, right? That's the only time it's going to run this year. And he believes that the field that he's presented, he has edge in, and he probably does to some regard, whether it's tiny or, you know, close to break even, who knows? But point is, start to finish, he'll take that tournament very seriously and believe himself to be able to realize the edge. But if he has to play 10,000 300K super high roller bowls, maybe he doesn't feel like he has much of an edge because so much of his game is curtailed to the specific opponents that he's up against, right? Yeah. And putting in a lot of volume kind of dilutes that.
You know, playing online might be viable for him if he plays on GG. I know a guy, Money Taker 69. The guy just has a crazy win rate. So if D-Negs is looking to
get some
coaching,
maybe is he offering coaching? Money Taker?
He might be, yeah.
Interesting. Well, we've seen what D-Negs can do with a little coaching, you know?
This is true.
He I almost threw a shot. It's like it's just teed up. I love Daniel. I don't want to troll, but I was gonna say he can lose $1 million heads up to Paul. Like it's so unfair. Obviously, like even battling in that situation was like very courageous. Yeah, I think that, you know, he is an ambassador, so he has a fast track.
Sure.
If he wants to. Let's talk about the GG super user. No, let's not call it a super user. Let's call it the hacking.
Yeah.
I think that's a more accurate term for what actually occurred.
Right, so, because super user would mean you can actually see the card.
He was super user adjacent.
Yeah,
because he could, exactly. He knew. Well, go ahead. I'll let you.
Well, you're right. You nailed the super user adjacent, Brian.
Right. There you go. No, I'm just saying because he could see
that we can work it in.
Right. You know, he could see the percentages of the equity of the hand, so he knew that when he was a big favorite in the hand.
Right. And
but
as
he
we
didn't
saw,
know exactly what the other person had.
As we saw, he didn't even care if he was a big favorite.
No, just small favorite.
Taking the small edges.
You gotta take the small edges. That's what poker's all about.
That is what poker's all about.
Listen, people, it's all about those small edges.
Right. So maybe if you have Jack high versus an open-ended straight flush draw,
that's unbelievable.
And one to come.
It's unbelievable this hand actually exists.
Maybe you'll just induce a jam.
Listen,
wild. Who's running this sim?
I'm telling you. Yeah, talk about a sim. We are in one.
Who's running this sim? Do you have that screenshot?
I don't.
Oh man.
It's in my Twitter. If you want to go through, just click the media tab. You'll find it pretty quickly. But yeah, while we find that, let me kind of set the stage for what happened. So I know this is let's not call it old news, but this happened about a week ago at this point. And it was seemingly happening behind the scenes for even a longer period of time. I think GG like started to address the issue around December 16th. So, you know, this has basically been going on for closer to a month. What essentially happened was players in the GG client were fearful that they were up against a super user. Okay, so here's the quote unquote Robbie. This was some of the evidence that was presented as to why they were fearful that they were up against the super user. As you can see, this hand played out in a way where Money Taker defends Jack Deuce off, then he leads right into Ace 7 Queen for one big blind, gets raised and calls. Turn is a 6. He leads for one big blind again, gets jammed on. He calls it off, and is shown 4-5 of clubs. Now,
what are the equities on the turn?
It's just so egregious.
Like
they're horrible.
He's probably
at
like,
cheating.
He's
They're
probably
horrible.
He's like
he's
a
probably
55?
Like
50,
yeah,
60?
like 60-40.
Yeah.
58.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
20% is a lot.
Make a fucking living off of 20%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I build mansions off of 20%.
Right.
Like people, the wealthiest people in the world are operating off of like 5%.
It's funny
edge.
though, because like if you're sitting there with the Jack Deuce and you see that he has 40% equity, you got to kind of know what he has. He's going to have a very big combo draw.
So that's the thing. If these guys actually are a hacking group, and based off of a lot of the evidence that we saw as far as like how they executed,
they're not that savvy in actual poker.
Right, they're not very sophisticated when it comes to poker.
Right,
they're just taking raw numbers.
They just understand that I have an edge here, so I go.
Correct. So yeah, let's add a little bit of context then to what we just saw there, because when the users were presenting this evidence to 2+2 and submitting it to GG, effectively they're watching this hand play out where this guy just induced with Jack High on 2 streets and got a jam to come in. And I know that it's easy, much like the Robbie situation, to say, well, why on earth would he want to commit all of his money with Jack High there versus such a high equity hand if he knew the cards? And it's like, well, yeah, that's a very reasonable question if he knew the cards.
Right.
And at the time, we were operating on the assumption that he was a super user and was obviously able to see the other hands because the way he was playing, it looked like he had near perfect information. Mm-hmm. What was ultimately divulged by GG's security team was that he did have near perfect information, but not perfect. Essentially, there was a glitch in the thumbs up, thumbs down reaction that you could execute in GG's client. And through that, there were packets attached that were sent on the client side that divulged the equities of the 2 hands up against one another at that current point in the hand. So effectively, the hacker was able to get into the thumbs up, thumbs down mechanism, intercept the packets that were transmitting the equities of the hands at that juncture, and then basically make perfect decisions, or I guess perfect decisions on the equities, not the actual outcomes, right? So he's still gambling, but he's gambling with a
huge edge,
massive, an unbeatable edge, right? Like it's impossible for anybody to overcome this.
Yeah. Even the casinos in Vegas don't have that kind of edge.
Correct. And yeah, look at what we've built off of 3%.
Right.
You know.
And am I correct in asking if this wasn't the only person? Because it looks like on the 2+2 forum there were several
hackers,
players that were just winning at
astronomical
rates.
Let's talk about a few things. First, let's discuss a little bit of GG's statement, because I think that that's relevant to this. Effectively, it looks as though in their statement it was just Money Taker 6ix9ine that they had pinned as the potential hacker. They did shut down his account. They refunded $29,795, and I believe that was mostly, if not all, from the cash games. I saw something in one of the threads saying that they were going to do something about the MTT as well, but I haven't heard it or seen anything since then. So I'm not sure if there was a follow-up where they did further refunds and bumped everybody up a place in that tournament that he won, or if they plan to do that in the near future. I'm unsure. But they did say that they addressed the security patches, and they had addressed it much sooner, December 16th. But the issue was that the hacker had already basically created a clone copy for himself of the client, which did not allow updates to push through. Mm-hmm. That allowed him to preserve the hack that he had installed and, basically take advantage of it as long as possible. Now, with regard to what Guapo is saying, there was a 2+2 thread that was essentially saying, like, there are a lot of these accounts that are winning at a rate that is undeniable. So to give you guys a little bit of perspective of how this was found out from the user side, effectively Money Taker 69 was winning at a big blind per 100 rate that is just inconceivable.
It's like 80 or 90, right?
Yeah, 80
He was winning like
something.
90 big blinds per 100 over a 9,000 hand sample, and when they did prime dope calculations, this was just coming up like a 0.0000% likelihood. So it was, all the variance in the world over that sort of sample, just even though it's a small sample, it's still significant enough that like it's just not possible without near perfect information to have that sort of win rate. And somebody else kind of doing their due diligence went through and found a host of other names that were kind of demonstrating similar results, putting up big numbers and what have you. Now, there is sort of a failsafe that's baked into GG's client that prevents any of these hackings to actually take a lot of money. So what you notice in this client list is that these accounts all disappear.
After 15,000 hands.
Right.
Relatively.
Relatively speaking, yeah. And there's very likely a reason for that on the GG side. And it's that they suppress big winners. So basically, they don't have to take anyone's business. And if you demonstrate a 90 big blind per 100 win rate over 15,000 hands, they just kick you off the site.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty good at detecting shit like this. Mm-hmm. So like it forces you to either be more sophisticated in your cheating methods or have the capability to rinse and repeat, hundreds and hundreds of times, which maybe that capability did exist. We're not really sure. And maybe this is something that GG can further look into now that we're starting to have some evidence mount, because the thing of it is that even though they patched their vulnerability in this one instance where they were being hacked, that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't certain backdoors that are being overlooked elsewhere. Like one of the biggest issues with code, maybe issue is the wrong word, but the reason hacking exists is because every coder always leaves himself a backdoor, right? Like you never want to be able to create a program that the coder himself gets locked out of.
Right.
And because of that, like other sophisticated people with code will try to find ways to break your system. And honestly, white hacking is like one of the best methods out there to test a lot of the tech that you roll out, because effectively what you're doing is you're just hiring people to try to break what you built. Mm-hmm. And from that vantage point, like that's how a lot of the vulnerabilities and weaknesses rise to the top.
Now, isn't there a white hat hacker group called Money Taker?
I don't know if they're white hat. We just know that there's a hacker group.
Okay.
I'm not of the impression that they're white hat, but I know Doug reported that he thought that they were.
Yeah,
I don't think that there's any information one way or the other on that. We just know that there was a Russian hacker. Maybe they weren't even Russian, but there was a hacker group called Money Taker 69 or Money Taker 69. I don't know. That did hack, like I believe, a Russian bank. So this might be a part of that group, or it might just be a play on Moneymaker.
Could be.
Play
on Moneymaker, play on the hacker.
Yeah,
the hacker itself.
Yeah, if they're aware of it.
Hacker.
Like there's a million. There's a million
Copycats.
different things that we could read into this that can't go too deep. So we should probably just keep it to the surface level of like what is known.
Yeah.
Now, with regard to how this all shook out, from the player standpoint, which is what I want to speak to the most, the community, man, congratulations. Like honestly, I know that everybody gets a lot of shit for crying wolf and coming out public like too soon with a lot of this stuff, but like this is and what has always been what the poker community is able to do and capable of whenever they are giving even just a glimmer of information, right? We go back to the UB scandal or the absolute scandal with Russ Hamilton, and I want to be very clear that this is not that, right? So the biggest reason why I want to talk about what happened with Ultimate Bet and Absolute back in the early 2000s is because it's very clearly something different. And I think initially this was being confused for being the same sort of attack on GG. And it's important to make this delineation because what happened at Absolute was an inside job. Mm-hmm. What happened with GG was a vulnerability. There's a big difference here.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. The reason for the inside job at Absolute was because of a vulnerability. So that doesn't necessarily let everybody off the hook. But vulnerabilities will always exist, right? The inside job, foolproof. Right, of course. The inside job aspect of it is what made Absolute and UB crumble to their knees. It's what made them completely untrustworthy as a site, right? So to give everybody a little bit of a recap of what happened back in, I think, 2007, effectively, UB and Absolute kind of partnered to be a part of a network. I think they were the Sirius Network, if I recall correctly. And they brought Russ Hamilton, former WSOP main event winner, on as a consultant. He was a part of the team, whatever. And as 2007 rolled on, this account popped up, Pot Ripper. And it was just winning at a clip that nobody could really comprehend. It all culminated with him winning the $100K guarantee $1,000 buy-in on a Tuesday for $30,000. And what was really interesting about that was that he beat Crazy Marco Johnson heads up with calling off with, I believe, 10 high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to show you that hand history really quickly. But essentially what happened was they were heads up. Pot River limped with 10-9. Marco checked. And they ended up getting it all in on a King 4-7-5 board where Marco tripled off. And Pot River just, calls with the 9 high. So I believe it went like Pot River bet the flop. Johnson called. He checked the turn 7. Pot River bet. Johnson checked jam for the remainder of his chips. And then Pot River just calls off with 10 high, no draw. Like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Now, this one instance obviously wouldn't be enough to get him caught, but it was enough to raise suspicion. So Marco then reached out to support and said, I'd like a hand history file of the final table so I can go back and see other hands that were played. I'm entitled to that, whatever. They accidentally sent him a spreadsheet of actions at all tables throughout the entire event for the first 2 hours of the event. So Marco then basically put this on 2+2, said, internet, do your thing. And back then, Poker X Factor was the MTT training site owned by Johnny Bax. They created an online replayer video of all the hands that Pot River played. So basically, people come through, they went through every hand that he played, and now it became abundantly clear that cheating was occurring. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm mostly pulling a lot of these details out of a Poker News article, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe Gaucho was also one of the early whistleblowers who caught him potentially cheating heads up. So back then, I think it was like Gaucho and Prahlad were like two of the biggest victims that Pot Ripper took advantage of heads up. So things like kind of shake out over the next few months. And in November 2007, Absolute announced that through an internal audit, they identified 7 accounts: Pot Ripper, Grayscale, Steamroller, Double Drag, Payup, Supercast 55, and Romaldo. So maybe some of those were the ones that were involved in the heads up. I'm not sure. But they had all cheated over a 40-day period beginning back in August. The site said that there was no evidence or current past existence of super using account, but agreed to refund $1.6 million to cheaters. So this was a way bigger deal. And they just had to come out of pocket for that. We don't know if those accounts made off with the money or not. But eventually, the Pot Ripper account was traced back to their Costa Rican offices and attributed to Russ Hamilton, which was eventually what kind of brought him to his knees in the poker community. Now, let's be clear: nothing ever happened to him. No. Maybe he's ostracized, but like none of us could pick him out of a fucking lineup anyway. So if he's some old man coffee down at the Jewel, right? No one's gonna know.
Do you imagine?
And as far as the 1.6 million goes, maybe he made off with it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
It's like you stole 1.6 million and you're not in jail. Like, and we know you did it.
And back then they were making so much money.
Yeah.
That it's almost I'm putting myself in the position of like the higher ups at Absolute and UB, right? Like say say we're running Solve for Why and we hire Russ Hamilton as a consultant, right? And we're making like, I don't know, what do you think they were pulling in back then? $3 million a month, $4 million a month, maybe
A lot, yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
40 to 50 million a year, something along those lines, right? And then we find out that this consultant had stolen 1.6 million from our clientele, which is now going to be like 0.5% of our total revenue for the year. Kind of just pay to move on.
Yeah, I guess, right?
Like, hey guys, sorry, we're going to do our best. Let's refund everything and move on, right? It's probably not bad business. Now, it's not great for the community.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And it's not great for trust, which is ultimately what allows you to continue to earn that much month over month. And that's why I think I want to draw a clear line in the sand between what happened back then and what happened now based off of the GG hacking. Because trust is it's so important to this community to have anything function as is, and GG is one of the biggest clients in the world right now. So if they're going to be dragged, they should be dragged for what they're responsible for, and not for the implication that it's some sort of inside job and they're no longer a trustworthy site type of thing. So effectively, like, now that we're able to understand that this was not a super user situation, this was just a one-off hacking, or maybe not a one-off hacking, we're not really sure. I think we should kind of like dissect a little bit of like how this was found out and then point to what the response was, because that's kind of what matters the most whenever it comes to being, I guess, a customer of a site like this. So obviously the community turned a lot of, shined a lot of light on this and deserved to be applauded for finding out another bad guy.
Are you talking about UB or GG?
GG. Well, both, but GG in this instance. And I respect GG a lot for pointing that out in their response. So they said, would also like to thank the poker community. This incident further proves the power of our community and the poker players' hive minds. As a constructive community, feedback gave us good confidence in resolving the issue. We'll continue to take community feedback seriously and open our ears and all comments and suggestions. Let's build a safe future together. I think that's really important. Assuming that they mean it and that they live up to that, because what we've seen in the last 6 months is a lot of policing taking place on the community side and not a lot of response on the client side, right? We saw this whole thing roll out with GTO Wizard Fair Play Check, and obviously the initial rollout was a little bit clunky and we got a lot of false positives, but eventually the process kind of refined itself, and we were actually able to suss out a couple people that were, unfairly RTAing. Most specifically, Project Baby on Global. Yeah.
And initially there was pushback from
so much.
The CEO from Global, right?
It wasn't
I don't know if it was the CEO,
wasn't
but
the CEO.
Someone from Global, right?
They would never speak on their own behalf. But yeah, it was David Lyons at Global was the one kind of providing the community response. And
we're kind of seeing the opposite from GG.
Correct. Now, let's call a spade a spade. This is just a general press release written by whoever.
Yeah, somebody who gets paid to do this.
Correct. Yeah. So we need to see the follow through here, I think. In order to maintain high confidence that they really do have our best interest in mind. But, we did see them kind of negotiate with the high stakes players when it came to mitigating the high rake and doing what was best for that ecosystem. Now, granted, it took a bit of a push from us, a boycott of sorts.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're open and they're willing to acknowledge and listen to their consumer is a very different change of pace from what we're accustomed to seeing, right? A lot of the other clients that we deal with are very brash and very much treat the clientele as though they're kind of just, rats. And I use that term because this is a bit of an aside, but when I was coming up in baseball, you get to know a couple of the umpires here and there, and I became pretty good friends with one of the umps that would do our summer league games. Also was a minor league ump. So once like Double A or whatever would end, he'd come to the tail end of summer ball and do like our playoffs and stuff. And I talked to him, and he go, you know what we call the quote unquote superstars of double and AAA that are about to get called up? I'm like, no, what? He's like, rats. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, stars backwards. I'm like, why? He's like, because they're the most insufferable people on earth to deal with. And it's like, the parallel is kind of there in the sense that, you know, the umpire has all the power. GG, the client, has all the power. And it's only the stars or the collective community as a whole that has big enough voice to try negotiate or influence that sort of power. So far, I think that everything has been handled like pretty well. I think GG deserves a ton of credit for actually exposing what was vulnerable. Most times we just see this release being very generic, saying like somebody was caught doing something nefarious. We're not going to tell you what it was. We're not going to tell you who it affected.
So not a lot of transparency.
Very
almost
rarely.
none.
Almost
Yeah.
none.
Right.
And I think that they went above and beyond in this instance, saying like, okay, here's exactly what happened. And this is these are the steps that we took in order to ensure that you're safe moving forward. Now,
That's good on their part, I think, though, because like you don't want the whole community going out thinking that there actually is a super user.
correct.
Right. So it's like you're looking. So they kind of just laid it out and said, "Listen, this isn't the super user. It's a different situation." And I think that's why they went that route.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you're leading up to this or not, but in the UB spot, the reason things got found out is because people started digging in, like
Correct.
doing research, right?
Yeah.
Now with GG Poker, is it their security team that actually found this, or was it again like the squeaky wheel needs to get some oil?
Right. So I think it's both. And I say that because we kind of already prefaced this a little bit, but they just banned winners. So I think that this account would have disappeared. Now, whether or not it would have disappeared because of the reasons that were later found out or not is a totally different story, right? They may never have found the vulnerability in the thumbs up, thumbs down hack if it weren't for the public pressure and all of these threads being created on 2+2, leaking information, leaking hand histories. I mean, like the due diligence that the community did here was very impressive, right?
And for me, I think that's the scariest part. The scariest part for me is that, like, definitely kudos to GG, but the scary part is that you didn't catch the part where, like, there was a vulnerability, and the vulnerability came because of community and not so much as GG security team.
Well, we're not positive, right? Like we didn't catch. Here's the thing. Yes, they did. They caught it. We didn't know it was the thumbs up, thumbs down mechanism. Right, we just pointed them in a direction of saying like you have a super user.
Yeah,
right.
We jumped to a far extreme.
Is the onus on us to tell them to do that though?
No. But my point is that we can't jump so far as to say that they had a vulnerability that they would have never found. Okay. Because all it took was one account that's winning too much for them to very quickly find where the vulnerability was. So it is a give and take, and I hear what you're saying because I do think that that's a valid point where, as a big business, and we have to acknowledge like what's going on the client side of things. These are big businesses. You know, they're pushing billion-dollar businesses, if not more than. You accept some negligence. You accept some level of flaws in your system and some loss rate, right? So it's like if somebody is stealing $15,000 every 3 months from your clientele, you're not going to, I hate to frame this as like they're the bad guys because I don't view it that way. Right. It's just you're so big, like that's crumbs on the floor. You don't notice it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a little bit of dust in the corner that you overlooked when you were doing housekeeping. That type of stuff is going to happen.
There's a small parallel here. Like Amazon does the same thing. Like with people who like kind of abuse the return policy. Like Amazon doesn't give a shit about people return. Like it's like 0.0005% of their total profit. Like they just don't care.
Probably add another 6 zeros on there. But yeah, right. So that's the thing. It's like that's where we do become a very important part of this whole process. Is that we're the mice. We're very capable of seeing the dirt in the corner and sussing it out to them, you know, kind of reporting it back. So the fact that the big thing that is worth highlighting is that they have open lines of communication with the community, I think. Now that I've said all these flowery things and, kind of given them their props for how they handled this thing, like we have to be very critical too. This flaw existed for something very stupid.
Yeah, for like the thumbs up,
Yeah. Yeah. And look, they're trying to be innovative. They're trying to gamify things. That's really sharp.
That's why I was a little confused. I was like, why is there even a thing in their system that shows the equities? And then, because I didn't really understand exactly. I've never played on GG, so like I don't
Is that
really
for
get it.
all-in moments? Like when you go all in?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe it's so that the equities are available when you're all in.
So when you're all in, they just pop the equities
Correct.
just pop up on the screen, so you know
Right.
what you're sweating. Yeah. Okay.
And it seems like they've corrected this as far as I understand. Either they've not passed those packets on the client side any longer, or they found a better way to protect them. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, they're not going to divulge their methods either. But in any event, like, your point's very valid. The more bells and whistles you add to something, the more vulnerabilities,
of course,
that you potentially have. So, again, I haven't programmed in 20 years, so like I'm by no means an authority on this. But like when I think about how you build, the initial algorithms, like how you frame out what it is that you want your product to be. When it comes to security, I think that you want, like, whatever that base code is that encompasses the gameplay and everything else. I think you want the majority of your security to just be like locked in there and untouchable. Yeah. Right now, when you add new things, they just become layers on top of that code that don't have any interaction. But the thing is that, in a lot of instances, there are plenty of shortcuts that can be taken, which speed up a process of getting a new shiny bell or whistle released. Coders are always going to look for the most efficient way to solve a problem. And sometimes the most efficient way is like to, attach these packets to the thumbs up, thumbs down mechanism. And then that might leave you vulnerable. So, at the end of the day, there is a lot of blame still to be doled out on the client side of things, right? Like Guapo pointed out, would they have found this had we not shined a light on it? I don't know, right? I don't really know. Secondary thing is, are there other potential vulnerabilities? Is that why we have this list of winners that all disappear after 15,000 hands? Again, I don't know. Maybe that's just them. Well, here's the thing. It's two-part question, right? One, are they disappearing after 15,000 hands because GG is kicking them off the site? I would suppose the answer to that is yes.
Right, because if you're winning money, why stop?
Right. So two then becomes, how are they winning all of this money over a 15,000 hand sample? Is it through hacking? Is it through RTAing? Is it through card sharing, colluding? Like,
studying.
What methodology are they utilizing to cheat? Or is it on the up and up, right? And some of these win rates are astronomical, so it's almost certain that they weren't on the up and up.
Right.
But now it becomes a matter of, like, through what nefarious method are they utilizing? And then lastly, how is GG addressing this, right? So personally, the next step that I would like to see is I would like to see some sort of statement addressing this list of winners and, kind of making us understand what is taking place to allow these winners to exist and why they're disappearing.
Yeah, and it's like when they disappear, are they freezing their accounts and then holding that money? What are they doing with, like, right? It's not like they just disappear, they take the money and leave, because that's not a good thing either.
Right.
Right? Because someone just makes an account, waits till they get banned, and then it creates another one. And
do you think
their
their stop loss is too high? Do you think 15,000 hands is enough to go, okay, this is clearly a big enough sample size where we need to take them off the site?
Well, you have to have some sort of,
well,
like,
right,
you have to have a
can't-
big enough sample
right,
size
because
someone
if they
could just
play
go on
5,000 hands and go God mode, which we've all been there, like, you
yeah,
can't
sometimes
get
you just
kicked off
go
the
on
site.
a rush,
Well,
right? So it has to be. I would
There has
think
to be a
there's-
sweet spot.
The other thing you have to remember is they're not just like looking to kick off outliers. It's not like they're just looking
Right.
for the guy with 90
Exactly.
big blind per 100 win rate at 15,000 hands. They're kicking off guys that are probably winning like 7. Yeah. So it's like that's a totally separate conversation. Like, is that good, bad? Are they segregating pools? Like, I know WPT Global segregates pools by win rate. This is just like the new age of online that we're dealing with, where
Wait, on WPT, if you're a fish, you get to play with other fish?
correct.
Oh, shit, that's pretty cool.
So it creates a lot
for the fish, I'm saying.
Yeah, but it creates a lot of incentive to continually create and recycle new accounts. So it now puts a lot of pressure on their security. That's not to say people are doing it.
I understand.
Or are even capable of doing it, but I'm saying it's another area where, like, they have to add a
Because
layer
a
of
new
security.
account isn't going to be thrown in with the wolves.
Always going to get the open open the open pool, I suppose.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a lot. I think like the biggest takeaway that I have from my perspective is that the community remains undefeated, right? Like, you can say what you want about the Robbie Garrett situation. You know, we're all still relatively divided, and everybody can have their own opinion, and you know, whatever comes of it comes of it. But the fact of the matter is, the response from the community, even in that situation, was a massive net positive. It made everybody re-examine what the protocols are for streaming. It made everybody change and alter their confidence in streams that aren't operating under the guidelines of Nevada gaming or New Jersey gaming if you're in Atlantic City, right? Because giving us the platform even to just speak on that for weeks on end, where it's like, listen, there are 2 states in America that have policies so strict that once you go into the peak room, you're locked in there until the stream ends.
Yeah.
In AC, if you're a commentator, you don't get out of the booth. They literally lock you in. You don't get out of the booth till the event ends.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's like the protocols in place in regulated environments are so strict and so diligent in ensuring that there aren't vulnerabilities that it made us reminded us, I should say, that there's a lot of people who were operating in the Wild Wild West, and we were just willingly showing up with money hand over fist. You know what I mean? This is kind of that again, right? Where it's like with GG kind of showing a little bit of their vulnerabilities here, it does remind us that, okay, none of these clients are going to be perfect, but if we are diligent as a community and we stay on top of things,
they're willing to listen.
Yeah, and we point out anomalies, and you know, we come to them with evidence. Hopefully, they're going to be willing to listen. And there is going to be a divide, right? There at some point, there's going to be a divide between the sites that hear us and respond versus the sites that hear us and tell us to go fuck ourselves, right? Now, I don't think we're there yet. I think that it's really messy on the client side. I think that, you know, again, some things are just too small for them to care about, and that's unfortunate for us, especially if you're the one affected. But, you know, whenever push comes to shove, it's going to have to start to gravitate one way or the other. When you get a response like Global had, where it's, you're all overreacting, you're dead wrong, our security team's on this, there's no way he's cheating. And then a month later, a response of like, so Project Baby was found to be cheating. We're going to give partial refunds where basically he stole hundreds of thousands, and we're going to give, you know, $10K back to the affected people. Like, nobody got more than a $600 refund. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Somebody RTAs for months. They're going to make a lot of money. You know, it's a pretty big edge to have. Unfortunately, this is the direction that online poker is currently moving. I know I beat this drum a lot, but I do think that there are a lot of people at the top that have heavy interest in both keeping online poker healthy and moving it along into the future. So whether or not that's going to be viable is going to come down to, first and foremost, security, in my opinion, because this is absolutely a trust-based business. Nothing is going to pull people in more than being a site that they feel comfortable putting their money on. Same is going to hold true for sports betting. To a lesser degree, obviously, it's not as easy to cheat, but the trust between client and clientele is the number one predictor of who's going to win the sports betting arms race, right? Man. All right, let's move on to this quick story about MonkerGuy. We kind of led with it in the early part, but I do want to wrap up some of the details. So the long and short of it is that I don't know his real name, but I do know he's a high stakes reg. Let's call him Smiley.
Smiley, that's pretty close.
I mean, I think it's like Smille, if I had to guess. There's
like
definitely
Smiley.
not 2 L's in Smile.
Or now.
But yeah, anyway, my apologies. Respect to the high stakes reg, but he was running a server off of MonkerGuy, and he made what he calls a small error. Turned out to be a pretty big one. But he accidentally was trying to send a USDT transfer to one of his friends or whatever, but sent it to the address through which he paid MonkerGuy for his service. And I guess this had happened sometime early November. Okay. Let me get Daniel's name. I'm gonna give it a shot. Daniel Smilakovich.
There you go.
I think I nailed it. I think I nailed it.
Sounds
okay.
right.
You know what? Landon's not here to correct me, so nailed it. So he sent $21,744 USDT by mistake to the address that was supposedly held by MonkerGuy. Now, he followed up and reached out to MonkerGuy, basically said, I could see that it arrived on the blockchain. I need you to send this money back. MonkerGuy then responded and said, sorry, that address belongs to a friend. I don't actually have a USDT wallet. I just usually will accept crypto payment and then exchange it for PayPal or another online source. So whether it was a friend or somebody that he just did a swap with, did business with, whatever the case may be, it was not his account. Now the issue was, he said that he then reached out and his friend or acquaintance or whoever owned the account said that the account was frozen for KYC purposes. So effectively, he was saying that the address went to an exchange, right, and for KYC or know your customer purposes, that account got frozen and he had no access to the 21,000. And again, this is an instance of the community kind of rallying behind just what's right, just, and moral. So effectively, once that came out into the public, everybody just said, you got to give the money back. You don't want to burn your business to the ground based off of $21,000. This is ridiculous kind of thing. MonkerGuy then replied and said, the best I can do is offer you a $200 a month discount on the server. I can extend that to your friend as well, since you're both renting one. Smilakovich said, no, not going to happen. Just GG, get out of here. MonkerGuy then put out a long response to Polk and a few others. He said, I don't have the money. I didn't ask him to send this money, and I don't owe him any money. For context, here are more details. 21K was not meant to be sent to MonkerGuy. The address it was sent to was not a MonkerGuy wallet. Smille realized his mistake 3 days later, told us what happened, asked us to return the USDT. We've been trying to resolve the issue and get the money back for him. This has been going on for more than a month. Pretty sick of thinking about it. He thought threatening and posting publicly would help. I guess it's a free roll for him to try to get some money back. The entire thing is pretty fucked up in my opinion. I could understand why he would be frustrated, but I can also, from a business perspective, understand that, if you're a legitimate business, your payment processes are your responsibility.
Right. Yeah. He's thinking well, you fucked up and sent this to an address that's not mine, and now I'm responsible for giving you the money back. How's that? And how's that my problem? Right.
Which in a peer-to-peer world is very reasonable.
Right. But he must have given him that address at some point.
Correct.
Right. So it's you did have interaction with this address and this payment process, so you kind of are on the hook.
Yeah, so there's a few things that I think are worth noting. If his business were just peer-to-peer and he didn't advertise, he didn't have a legit LLC, he's not a corporation, he's just a guy that you're risking doing business with, then yeah, he doesn't have anything to burn to the ground. Although maybe he does, because it's still going to be a very trust-based business.
Yeah.
And you don't want to know that you can just get fucked at any who would trust renting something from someone like that?
Right.
Right? Because the result is that maybe he just rugs you one day.
Right.
And, your server disappears, right? Or maybe you can't trust him to maintain them, whatever the case may be, right? So, but once you become a legitimized business, you have a responsibility to the payment processing, right? So if we put a crypto address on our site and say we accept Bitcoin, and you send it to that address by mistake, well, we obviously have the means to just send it right back.
Right.
If our response is actually, we don't own that address,
right,
that just goes to another third party payment processor who refuses to do business with you. That's our problem. Because if that is the case, I'm on the hook, right? If you pay for an Academy seat and you decide that you want to cancel, and you did it through a Bitcoin address that we put on the site, and I say, sorry, Like, that's actually not even ours.
Right.
That's owned by somebody else, and he doesn't want to do it. Like, I'm on the hook. I have to give you your money back. Like, that's just the way that it works. And MonkerGuy really didn't seem like he wanted to acknowledge any responsibility in this from a business perspective, which I think is very problematic. Now, whether he came to his senses or the fact that people started doxing him in the threads pushed him over the edge, at the end of it all, it was resolved. So the last tweet he put out was, MonkerGuy has come to an agreement with the person who received the money that was sent by mistake. The money will be repaid in full. Then there were some screenshots put up demonstrating that the money had been, in fact, paid in full. And I think Smilakevich also confirmed that he had received the funds. So eventually everything shook out. But again, I think this is a great example of like public pressure, putting people in a position to do the right thing. And again, I don't know what MonkerGuy had to jump through. Like, I don't know what hoops he had to jump through to ensure that this got paid off. Maybe this did cost him something.
It might have. He might have just said, you know what, I'm going to eat the $21K to save my business.
Right.
You know, or maybe he was able to make a deal with the other person who received the money. So we don't really know, I guess, but he did make it right, so that's good.
Yeah,
and it looks like he paid the money back just in time for the person to buy the dip this morning. So that's good.
We got a dip.
Oh, well, we got a dip.
How big of a dip?
Well, there was $500 million worth of liquidations.
Wow.
Yeah,
just cracked 45 yesterday. What happened?
It cracked 45, and then a report came out that the EFT was going to be denied by the SEC. So, but it looks like the report was false, maybe not accurate. So it
a little FUD.
But yeah, but
FUD, if you will.
The market was super.
Love some good FUD.
Some good FUD is good. Well, the problem was the market, the crypto market in general, was super over leveraged.
Right. As they tend to be.
As they tend to be, but like, it's always leveraged, but this was like really over leveraged. And once that news came out, it dipped and it just started, liquidating people. And then all of a sudden it dipped to like 40,000, but then it recovered to like.
Just to go on a really, really small tangent, you would think that putting people on blast, like publicly, would like change the way that they operate. But your boy Ethan got another offer.
Oh no.
Dustin to close
Okay.
Coming back. Apparently he wants to see if Rampage wants to go into business again, and
oh no.
I don't think Rampage is going to go for it.
Oh no. Well,
GG.
He tried.
Yeah.
Respect to that man. I don't even want to get into the.
But I mean, the balls on this guy.
Rampage needs a money manager so goddamn bad. I mean, I know he's doing a lot of it for the memes, but like he was in some like egg slut coin that just like he bought it like peak top and it went to zero almost immediately.
Oh, no.
I mean, like he's on the wrong side of the pump and dump every single time. Like, come on, bro. Like you can't be a top signal for everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna be buying a little Bitcoin today. Happy everything is resolved. Happy everybody is getting compensated in some sort of fair capacity in all events. You know, it's nice to actually report some happy endings with some of these scandals. We're not getting out of here today without putting someone in the muck. And
oh no,
Guapo, it wouldn't be a new year if your ass wasn't in the muck.
Yeah, let's cue it up. It is my turn. I'm happy to bring in the new year.
You
with,
won this hand.
Well, I did win this hand.
You're in the muck.
I did this win, and I was almost certain that I won the absolute most money that I could. But
Berkey just overheard. He casually overheard the hand history, and he's like, "Wait, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't hardly hear any
but I'm
details."
Almost certain
but you definitely did not win the maximum.
Well,
all right. Well, let's run through this hand.
We'll let the audience decide.
Where are we at? We're at the Jewel?
My fellow 1-2 players out here, yeah.
All right.
We're at the Jewel. I already gave you a spoiler, but let's see.
All right. 1-2. You didn't move up to 2-3 yet, I see.
And obviously we have a limper because we're at the Jewel.
Sure.
I ISO with the king queen off.
Okay.
My boy Todd next to me calls.
Love it.
Lover of watcher of the pod, excuse me.
Shout out to Todd.
Yeah. Old Man Coffee in the small blind calls.
Okay, as they do.
Original Limper says no mas.
Good flop.
OMC checks, and there's 35 in the middle, so obviously I go with the $5 bet.
Hate you.
Yeah.
Go on.
Todd is a smart man. He knows that this is only value, so he goes away. OMC decides to call.
Is this only value?
Well, yes, but don't tell anybody.
You just told everybody.
I know, so stop repeating.
All right, let me pause.
This is a small bet board, correct?
Let me pause right here.
But-
Yes.
But it's not 6 of the pot.
No, it's fine.
Small.
It's fine. Okay, look, you can never go too small. Okay, that's what she said. If you're going to bet $5, for God's sakes, bet everything.
Yeah, exactly. You bet.
Like, what are
everything.
you not betting for
Right.
$5?
Right.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Okay, go on. Let's continue.
Have we taught you nothing?
Can you start wearing that T-shirt every time you go play at the Jewel?
Okay.
At least every time
Turn
you
is
do
a
it,
beautiful deuce of hearts. OMC checks, and we hit him with, well, why not? Let's just do $5 again, guys.
Okay.
We're trying to induce here, all right? This works online.
Okay. All right.
It works online.
No, it doesn't.
And of course, because I am the 1-2 pro, it works.
Okay.
OMC makes it 40. Obviously, we're just going to call here.
Mm-hmm.
We put in the call. OMC sees the 5 of spades on the river. He decides to give up. And I decide I'm going to make the absolute most money.
What did you say you wanted to do here?
Wait, say that again?
You said because I know what you did.
You
But what
wanted
did
to bet $5
He
again.
did. He wanted to bet 5 again.
I just wanted to know what is the absolute most I could extract at this point. So clearly, I think he has something like an 8, or he's just deciding to click buttons. But I want to give him a really good price. So I decide to go $15
I hate you.
into this $125 pot.
Oh,
And
man.
he goes into the tank and eventually
3-minute tank.
gives me 3 gallons of gas. Voila.
4
And this is
gallons.
why
Wow.
I'm winning at $33 an hour
No,
at
it's
1-2,
not.
ladies and gentlemen.
No, it absolutely
You're winning
is not.
$33 an hour at that game because your sample size is $100.
Hello, Henry. How are you?
Oh, hello.
Oh, we got a special guest.
Special guest.
Thanks for
Hi.
being here and jumping in front of my shot.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Senor Kilbane.
Man,
Thank you, puppy.
if
right, guys.
if that doesn't demonstrate the power of celebrity, we just interrupt the In the Muck segment. The Henry Kilbane goodbye.
When you got it, you got it.
Travel
right.
safe, young man.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
you're saying you don't like this, Matt. You don't think I got the absolute most I could have possibly got out of this gentleman.
I hate most decisions in this hand. Yeah.
All right.
All right. I think there's a few things I want to address that have absolutely nothing to do with what's theoretically correct and
Okay.
has everything to do with the way that you think about these spots.
Okay.
And the issue occurs in the imbalance of how you view value versus how you view the desire to bluff or the desire to have bluffs. And we can just start with like the $5 bet on the flop. When you say that this is only value, it means that you have already lopped off an entire portion of the game tree from that point moving forward, right? So when you see a flop of like queen, queen, 8, you have a lot of very natural bets here, but you could also just play pure check because you're out of position in a multi-way pot. Doesn't
Sure.
really matter. But
So normally I would play check here 100% of the time. But again, I'm just thinking I want to make money.
well, yeah. So then why would you if okay,
Go ahead.
If
I'm just setting you up, buddy. I'm throwing you
I
softballs here.
understand. If when you have a queen, you think you make more money by betting, why then would you want to check when you don't have a queen? You just want to take the line that makes money with range, right? You don't want to hand play because that doesn't work. You become predictable and obvious and then end up in the muck. What you want to do is you want to, no matter what action you take, like look, multi-way pots, you're not going to have high C bet frequencies when you're the out of position player. You're just,
Correct.
You're going to be like around a 30% betting frequency on good boards like this and far less on wet boards or connected boards, right? So you're going to majority check, but you have to understand the way that the game works is we don't just decide to bet or to check, and then all of our hands fit neatly into that decision in that moment, right? We actually have to kind of craft and curate a strategy that's built around core hands that want to do things at a higher frequency. So in other words, let's say that the global betting frequency on Queen, Queen 8, when you're out of position multi-way, is like 25%. So,
and that might even be a little high, right?
I would guess it's probably about right, but it might be like 20%. But it's a pretty advantageous board for the pre-flop progressor. So it's going to be one of the higher c-bet boards. So let's say that you're betting with your range is betting about a quarter of the time here and checking 75% of the time. You will have hands within that range that are betting like close to pure, right? They just happen to be the bulk of what constitutes your betting strategy. So they're what is built around, right? So let's say ace queen bets most of the time, like 75% of the time. That's a core hand that we know is going to derive and drive our betting strategy. So then what we want to do is we want to build other hands that can also bet without sacrificing any EV. So you want to find some hands that are 0 EV to bet. In other words, they mix bets and checks.
So like the 9-10 of clubs, 9-10 of
exactly.
like spades, ace highs with a backdoor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I understand.
Precisely. So
maybe I was being a little...
Well, what I'm saying is that when you bet $5, now you're not building your strategy around some core group of value, right? Because for $5 you can bet tens, you can bet nines, you can bet deuces.
I can also use those 9-10s, right? Like those 9-10s and those 10 jacks.
You could just bet everything.
Okay, yeah.
You're betting so small.
Right. That those small bets, 20%, sub 20%. You're betting range, literally your entire range.
Right.
So it's like everything you opened with, you're now betting $5, right? Or so if you want to choose certain hands, then you just bet bigger.
Sure.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, the biggest takeaway is going to be on the river with something that you said that was, I thought, pretty important.
Right. Okay. So again, like the $5 bet multi-way, not that big of a deal. It's fine to choose a small size here. I think it's like relatively reasonable, and whatever. I would probably cap out at like half pot anyway. If I were being very particular about like how I was building my betting strategy and I was mostly checking, then yeah, I'd probably bet like half pot. But okay, fine, we bet small. Get called by the small blind. Now, you shouldn't just like immediately range him to only having showdown value, of course. He should have a lot of backdoor peels, especially after the initial fold of the hijack, right?
He has a huge chunk of his range.
Correct.
Left. Right.
Correct.
You bet
his folding
so
frequency,
small
his folding frequency might be like 20%.
Yeah.
Maybe less.
Right. So 80% of his big blind, he came from
small blind.
His small blind range, which is probably
it's wide, condensed. It's wide, but it's more condensed than it would be from the big blind.
It's more condensed than it would be from the big blind, but it's also wider in these games. It's wider than what theory looks like.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, like he's gonna have a lot of peels. He's gonna have inferior queens. He's gonna have draws.
A lot of backdoor Broadway
stuff. A lot of 8x. A lot of pocket pairs, et cetera, right? Okay, so now the turn comes off a brick heart, bringing backdoors, and he checks to you. So the deuce of hearts. This only completes pocket deuces, which now has you beaten. He checks to you, and this is the thing that I want to really poke holes in, is your instinct is he can't have anything. I want him to put a lot of money in the pot. Do you see the contradiction there?
Say that again.
He can't have anything, and I want him to put a lot of money in the pot.
I want him to click buttons, yeah. I want him to be aggravated. I want him to just... I mean, obviously, we're not talking about theory at this point.
Right?
We're just talking about exploit. We're just talking about just knowing your customer and wanting him to just do something silly.
But the issue is you're not talking about exploit. You're not talking about knowing your customer. You're talking about your desire, and simply that you believe people's emotional tendency is to react with aggression when faced with something annoying. And that could be true.
I mean, listen, you're a live guy. You tell me, is there any truth to what I'm saying? I mean, let's be honest.
I think very little.
You can induce people.
I don't believe. I think that I think you can do things that cause mistakes.
Okay.
And you did say this was an old man coffee, right? So
Yeah.
he's less likely to do
well,
that, right? Or no? I don't know who the guy was.
He was more of a grumpy OMC, and he was splashing around. He was fighting back.
Big shout out to JJ hitting us with the super chat. Said, "Welcome back, glad to see you."
It wasn't Francis, was it?
No,
You know
not
who Francis. Is?
No.
Oh, he's about 86, and he will.
He's feisty.
He will. He will. If you bet $5, he might make it 200.
Okay, so I mean, here's the thing. Like, yes, you can do things that are annoying to your customer, so to speak.
Sure.
That will result in them potentially doing something that they otherwise wouldn't have. And generally, this revolves around creating some sort of way where calling is not an option for them to win, right? So if you bet half pot, he can call with an 8 and sometimes win because you're bluffing when you have half pot. But if you bet $5, he can't really call in his mind with an 8 any longer because you're probably not bluffing for that size. Or at least if you are.
I think that's debatable, but yeah.
Sure. Well, it's not about what you actually do. It's about perception now because this is what you're trying to manipulate, right? The whole quote unquote I'm inducing is it's a play upon people's emotion. It's thinking that you can generate an emotional response based off of a mechanic, right? So mechanically, you're betting 10% of the pot. And what you're hoping for is emotionally, he says, fuck this guy, and just smashes a bunch of money into the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have traps, you just get to snap. And when you have other things, you just get to fold. It doesn't matter. And this is a nice parlor trick. And it's a great way to realize equity, especially out of position. But in position, it really doesn't serve you all that well. It's effectively the same as checking back. The only difference is that you reopen the action for him. So now you are a lot more now you are a lot more likely to have value because you're giving him the option to reopen the action. And you're very unlikely to do that with a hand like an 8.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or 9s or, a now open or gut shot flush draw, like 9-10 of hearts. You don't really want to reopen the action unless it's giving you a lot of fold equity.
That's why it's never great to go quarter pot on the river when you're in position for thin value, right? Because you're reopening the action. So you always going to go half pot or more.
Yeah. So I guess the big thing that I'm leaning into here that I find to be troublesome is this notion that you can pull the puppet strings, right? So when he just folds for the $5 and we're talking about this hand, you can't feel good about the action, right? Because it just means that he had a hand 6-5 of clubs and turned nothing. Right. Now he just mucked 6 high. And, now you might be replaying in your mind I should have checked and given him a little bit more rope. And, maybe then he can make an error on the river. The problem when you focus on that portion of your range is how do you stack a queen here?
So in this exact scenario, are you talking about when he has a queen here? Let's say when he has queen jack or queen 10?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he's going to do all the heavy lifting for me, right?
Is he?
I think so.
Okay, he makes it 40.
Yeah.
And you call.
Yeah.
River bricks. He has queen 10. And he decides that you have a lot of nothing. You missed hearts.
Okay.
You missed straight draws. And then you also have queen X. So he checks. And you choose.
Well, hold on a second, because let's not just gloss over this. If he has queen 10, Matt, and we're playing 1-2 at the Jewel, I'm not going to see a check here very often, dude.
Why not?
Yeah,
why can't he go down? Why can't he go down the same logic?
Absolutely.
You have to bat for me on this.
No, I'm dead serious. They might check raise there, and then when you call, they're like, oh, he might have a better queen than me. I better play it safe.
Or he just missed.
Call.
Or he just missed and can't call. It's so easy to jump to if I bet he can't call worse.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with Berkey here. I mean, I get it. Some people might just be like, oh, I got him. But with a 10 kicker, they're like,
And even if they say I got him, he bets 40 again, probably.
Yeah.
It's not like he jams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm not jamming.
No, not you. Him.
No, but then when you jam,
124 here.
he just snaps you off with
yeah,
better
I'm
and
probably
folds
going like
worse.
I'm probably like going 75, 80.
Wait.
You went 15.
No, I understand that. I'm saying if I really believe that this gentleman has a queen,
You don't. That's the whole press.
this is the crux of the.
that's the entire crux of the muck here.
Why could he never have a queen there?
Right.
In
You
this,
don't get to believe.
in this exact situation, like, why did you think he doesn't have a queen here?
It's called brown magic.
Because he has a queen. How could the other guy have a queen? That's kind
There's
of
only one left.
That's kind of the point. If you look at this spot in theory, where your win rate is mostly being derived from is his bluffs and his queen, right? So it's the times that he has a queen and he can pay, and it's the times that he has a bluff and he chooses to double barrel. So, you could make a case for the small bet on the turn, and I do think it's a reasonable one to just again, half pot there instead of polarizing. But the issue is that there's no real case for a small bet on the river because your range should be more polar in nature as well. You should have a lot of pocket pairs that just check back and never go for value. And then when you bet, you should have a queen and busted draws, right? So betting 15, 10% of the pot again
Is just value.
It's not only just value, but now it's just value that his bluff catchers can never beat. Because you won't bet sixes for $15, but you'll have sixes, right? You won't bet an 8 most likely for $15, but you'll have a lot of 8x. You could bet 9s though, because you'll just bet the obvious hands that have a target. 9s have an obvious target of an 8. 10s have an obvious target of an 8. You don't worry about value cutting yourself because nobody's double check raising here very often.
9s would feel a little thin here considering I got check raised on the turn, but yeah.
Why though? You just said he didn't have a queen.
No, I understand that. And now you're playing my own words against me.
Exactly.
I understand.
He's just poking holes in your.
I'm just saying that 9s would feel a little tough here.
Right. So you should bear that in mind then when it
I'm
comes
betting
to
$15, right?
Yeah, when it comes to wanting to stack somebody with a queen.
Right,
here.
like you were trying to get value from an 8, right?
Yeah.
So then why wouldn't you not do that with 9s?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But more specifically, you said the guy pain folded, right? Like he
actually
called.
thought about it for a little bit, and it was like, so I assume he paid me off with an 8.
Right. And my point was, and that's the other thing, we don't even know they had an 8. He might have just had a dusty ass queen.
And this is the part that really
Maybe he did have a queen. Yeah. What if he had just a.
Imagine he just has queen 9 off.
And maybe he was thinking about raising again.
Right. And then just realized oh no, this is only value.
Yeah.
Right. So the part that really resonated with me was when you said that I possibly could have made more money here when I actually go for a bigger size, and then he decides to pain call with me.
I think over the aggregate, you are winning so much less to this bet. So essentially, the way we look at this is how many pot or what percentage of the pot will our bet earn over the long run. Let's say he calls that $15 there 75% of the time.
Okay.
A quarter of the time, he's probably just going to have a busted draw, right? And maybe he bluffs it, maybe he doesn't. But let's assume that you earn 75% of that 15. Actually, let's say 66% for easy math because I don't want to do math on air. So you earn $10 extra every time you bet 15, right?
Okay.
If you bet 75,
and I only get called
how often do you need to get called to make the same $10?
I understand what you're saying. So
Right.
what's 25% of 75,
15% of the time.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So you only need to get called 15% of the time to effectively earn the exact same amount of money as the small bet that you feel like is printing, right? Even if he calls it 100% of the time, you only need to get called 20% of the time when you bet 75% or $75.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, see, that's the part that was a light bulb moment for me.
And the biggest issue is that it's harder for him to call the $15 than it is the 75 with a bluff catcher because you're never bluffing for $15. They just don't exist. Right. And you could say oh, okay, well then the exploit is to start bluffing for $15. But it's no, not really. Because the only time he folds, the only time he's never folding an 8.
Right.
An 8 will 100% of the time call. It just feels worse than if you had bet $75 because in both instances, he doesn't beat value. But in the second instance where you bet $75, your value range is so much tighter and you have bluffs to complement it that he wins the appropriate amount of time to make a 0 EV call.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway for me is what you just said about that river decision, as far as betting really, really, really small versus making that bigger bet. Even when I'm called at a lower percentage, I'm still making the same amount of money, if not more. So that was the big takeaway for me.
Good.
I'm glad. All right. No more multi-way stuff, man. We get way too in the weeds.
Oh, that's all that is.
I know.
I mean, you played live. You go multi. You have to go multi-way all the time.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We do. Okay. But we don't have a multi-way solver yet, and we need one. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed In the Muck. If you guys would like to submit your own personal In the Mucks, head over to our Twitter page at onlyfriends_pod. You can find the link to our Discord channel there. Feel free to join. We have a forum dedicated to In the Muck submissions. We're going to be doing these a lot more frequently now. Big shout out to GTO Wizard. They're going to be our feature sponsor of In the Muck moving forward. So you're going to see a lot of solving taking place. We're going to still walk through the In the Muck spots, but then we're going to confirm with the Wizard. You know, get a little.
Feel free to. You don't have to give your real name if you want to make a submission. So when Berkey just lights you on fire,
right?
Like you know, your friends won't make fun.
I'll call you user 6677. So be sure to make some submissions there. Also, while you're on our Twitter page, be sure to check out our Twitter Tuesday post. Show us your graphs. You know, 2023 is over. 2024 is rolling in.
Does that mean I get to share my 100 hours at 1-2?
Yeah, if you want.
Sweet.
Just make it into a graph. Got a nice little tweet up there for you guys. Just respond in thread. Just, show us those graphs, baby. Show us those graphs. That's going to do it for us today. Don't forget, we do have an academy coming up in a couple of weeks. There are still a couple seats remaining. I believe we're now opening it up to previous attendees. So if you'd like to reattend, you should have received an email for the discount on that. Otherwise, you can head over to academy.solveforwhy.io and sign up. I think we have like 4 seats remaining for the second table. So be sure to hurry up and do that if you're interested. New episodes of Poker Out Loud drop every Monday. We got a little bit behind the 8 ball during the holidays, but 2 new episodes, I believe, are up as of today.
They are up.
So be sure to head over to solveforwhy.io and check those out. Guys, we're in for a good one this year. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a fun year.
People getting slapped.
Me out here bequeathing.
Mm-hmm. Did you get your Super Bowl tickets yet?
Not yet.
No.
We'll wait to see what that opening round playoff looks like.
Oh man,
Steelers, baby.
Let's go.
It'll happen.
Worst comes to worst, you can sell them for $10,000 in the parking lot.
That's true. That is true.
Shout out to Kessler.
All right. Melissa's going to join us tomorrow. We're going to come in. We're going to demonstrate our graphs from last year. It should be a good, fun show. Also, stay tuned. We're probably going to have some guests this month. I want to try to do a panel or two similar to what we did with the MDA, as well as maybe bring in some people who are a little bit outside the community. I got a little surprise in store. Be sure to let us know in the comments below who you'd like to see on the Only Friends pod, and make sure you smash that like button and subscribe on your way out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, as always. See you guys then.
Peace.